Hi, Kayla. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Well, welcome in. Um, this is your first therapy session.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. So before we get started, I just have to go over some nuts and bolts with you as far as confidentiality and like how that applies to the therapeutic process. So everything you say in here is confidential, just between you and me. There are a few exceptions legally. So if you disclose to me that you're going to harm yourself or someone else, I do have to report that, to authorities. Also, if there's any disclosure of like child abuse, elder abuse, and anything that might fall under like Patriot Act as far as like acts of terrorism being planned, those things by law I'm required to report, to proper authorities. But if anything like that were to come up during sessions, we'll discuss it. I'll talk to you about what that looks like as far as reporting it in, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Any questions on that?
No, I'm sure we'll cover it if it comes
Okay.
up.
Okay, great. So what brings you in today?
So, I'm actually just kind of feeling a little down. I was wanting to go to this specific school to complete my master's degree, and I just got the letter, pretty much just telling me no, and I had my heart set on it. I worked really hard for it. I, believe that I kind of put in some of my hardest work, and it just kind of sucks. Yeah, it just kind of sucks all around. I just don't feel good. I don't know. Just having a hard time with it.
That sounds like the appropriate reaction or, the type of feelings that one might experience going through something like that. Like, wow, that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly, I haven't been able to talk to anybody about it just because it's kind of embarrassing. I just kind of feel like a failure. I feel like pretty much all the work I put in wasn't good enough, and therefore, I'm not good enough, and, trying to deal with that while not being able to talk to people about it just because it's like, everybody's got their stuff together, and I'm just kind of like the last odd man out, and I don't know, I'm just kind of a lot going on right now.
Okay. So you're feeling pretty human right now and vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm exceptionally vulnerable.
Okay. All right. So, my process is very client driven, and I like to find out, what your goals are for therapy. Like, what would you like to see happen in your life when you come out the other side of these sessions?
So obviously, don't want to feel like this. I just kind of want to feel like I would if I would have gotten in, like all my hard work pays off, and that, I'm worthy, and that I'm not a failure, that, I can succeed, and that, I don't know, I guess that I'm quote unquote good enough.
Okay. So, yeah, so you've had this experience, and now you've got this narrative going on in your head. It's created a story around, what happened. So the story for you right now, it sounds like, is I'm not good enough, and my efforts weren't good enough. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what's going on right now.
Okay. So, do you have like any peers or friends that were going through the same process at the same time as you as far as applying to grad school?
So I've got a few, they're not at the same level. I have a few that have already gone through it. I have a few that haven't gone through it yet. And then I have a few that aren't even in school.
Okay.
So nobody that can really relate.
Okay. anyone that you know of that had a similar experience as far as not getting into the school they applied to?
If if I do know somebody, then I'm not aware of that per se. I've never had anybody talk to me about it.
Okay. So if one of your friends, were to go through this experience and they did not get into the school of their choice, what do you think you would feel about their experience? Would you have the same assessment, do you think, as far as, whether their efforts were good enough, and what that says about them as a person?
No. I don't think I would. I mean, if somebody came to me and told me, pretty much the same things I'm feeling, I would just tell them to try again, that it's okay, that, whether it was this time around just wasn't the right time, or whether maybe they're built for something a little bit different and possibly better. Right. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't think of them as worthless or as failures.
So yeah, it sounds like most people's experience is that it's always easier to have compassion for others, more so than it is to do that for ourselves. But is it a possibility that you could apply that same logic to your experience?
Definitely a possibility. I just so kind of there's logic, there's what I know, kind of what makes sense, what I know, what I should do, but then there's just the thoughts that just kind of come, and they're instant, and they're kind of like the default. So while I know better, I still feel like crap.
Okay. So is this how's this showing up in your life, like in the the sadness and the loss?
So I kind of just don't have any energy. I want to sleep all the time. I don't like getting up for work. I don't like getting up when I don't have to. I don't like seeing anybody. I don't like going out. So pretty much I'm just kind of like secluded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like, well, I don't know, how does that feel to you? Like, what does that sound like to you? As far as like, if you had to pick like a feeling word, what would you say the emotions are around that?
I guess I'm just lonely, depressed, just exhausted, all that, fatigued,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can hear the fatigue, in your voice. Yeah, this has to be an exhausting process for you right now. So, have you heard of mindfulness or mindful meditation?
I want to say I've heard of it. It sounds like familiar, but I can't say I know exactly what it is.
Okay. So it's a tool that you can use to sort of interrupt that thought process, because, we get in like a mental loop, right? Mm-hmm. Those same thoughts keep going round and round in our head. And so the purpose of it is to pay attention on purpose in the present moment to what you're experiencing, non-judgmentally. And that's, the extra challenging part, because our brains are designed to, process and analyze and compartmentalize, like, all the information we take in from the world. But so when you're feeling depressed, your thoughts are about the past, like, because this experience has already happened. You got the letter. This wasn't today, correct?
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're in depression, you're ruminating about, the past. And I know this is really fresh for you. And it's not about trying to change, the way you feel. Like, it's more about acceptance. So just saying, like, okay, like, this is what's going on for me right now,
Mm-hmm.
But you can notice, okay, I'm thinking about this thing that already happened. And to try to get some relief, bring yourself back to the present moment. For example, right now you're sitting in a chair, with a nice comfy pillow and a cup of tea, in a room having a conversation with me. So that's what's going on right now. And if you try and pay attention to your bodily sensations, you can use your five senses, try and stop and think, like, what am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I seeing? How do my shoes feel on my feet? Are they tight? Are they loose? Am I comfortable? Am I tense?
Mm-hmm.
And just notice what's going on for you in the present moment. And you can also use a breathing technique where you count the breaths going in and out. So, inhaling in is 1, exhaling is 2, and inhaling is 3. And just try and do that for like 10 breaths, And that's something that if you follow your breath kind of like a tennis ball going back and forth over a net and really focus on that, it gives your brain another activity to do instead of thinking about, what has already happened.
Okay, but what about so I can kind of understand how that would help. But then there's still that like pulling feeling of sadness and just kind of like it's like I'm just distracting myself from the sadness itself. So how does that? I mean, because then in the quiet moments, won't it just come back?
It will come back. It's going to return. You know what I mean? And you're going to have to experience it and feel how you're feeling. You know what I mean? But feelings are kind of like the weather that's going on in your life right now. So, like, you are the constant. You're the blue sky, and these feelings, sadness, loneliness, whatever they are, they're the clouds that are moving through the sky. If, that analogy makes sense for you. So, and I find it helpful because it reminds me of the transience of, life experiences, and that you're not always going to feel this way. And that can be the hardest part when we're feeling depressed, is that we feel like it's always going to feel this way.
Yeah.
But we know that that's not the case, and you will feel happiness again. You will feel joy again. But this is just the weather system that's going on right now for you.
Yeah, that kind of helps a little bit. It kind of just reminds me that, everything is all right in the end. I guess just the hard part is just dealing with it in the now.
Right. So, are there any other schools that you're interested in?
There's a couple I've considered. I did have my heart set on that one, but I don't know. I just, as of right now, I don't feel like trying for different schools.
Okay. So, you're feeling like you're in need of a break.
Yeah.
Sounds like. Okay. Yeah. Also, I'm curious, how was your undergrad experience? Like,
it was pretty good. I mean, I did well in my classes. I was working part-time while I was going. Financially it was a little hard, but overall, I mean, I did very well on paper.
So. Awesome. You did well. Well, that sounds really positive. Like, it sounds like a success to me. Like, how does, how does it feel to think about that experience?
It feels good. If I remember when I graduated, it just felt exceptional to know that I completed, this whole process and I got through it. So, I mean, that kind of, when I think about that kind of helps me, when I am feeling a little bit low, because, it just reminds me of what you're saying about how pretty much like the weather, it'll come and it'll go. So.
Yeah, it sounds like you had some strategies to get through, your bachelor's degree that were really successful and worked for you, and speak to your capabilities. So I really feel like you have a lot of strengths, in that area, academically and time management and everything. And I feel like that's really a positive for you to focus on, and points to evidence that you can have a successful future going on into grad school.
Yeah, I mean, if I kind of focus, I guess it makes sense. If I focus more on the good, I'll feel a little bit better than if I focus on the bad. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you can also, it's just a little tool, write out a little inventory, of the positives, of your achievements, so that you can have a visual to look at and remind yourself, like, these are the things I've already accomplished. And, focus on that positive evidence, instead of having the inclination to only look at the things that have not worked out, So you have a balanced picture of an inventory of what's going on in your life.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely try that.
Fantastic, because I'm pretty darn sure that that list of positives, that column's going to be way, way longer than than any of the negatives. So
yeah, I can definitely check that out. I'm sure you're right. I mean, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I want to let you know that I know this was your first session, and the really important part of the therapeutic process is like finding someone you're comfortable with, because it's a very personal thing to come in and talk about your life with somebody. So just know that if you want to check out other counselors, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly normal. I won't be offended. And you can contact me for future appointments at your leisure and on your time frame. But I am here to be of service and to try to help you get through this time of transition.
Okay. Sounds good, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming in today.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.